Now, if you watched my first impression slash first episode review of Gridman, you know I really like this series, but coming out of episode 2, I did not expect to like it as much as I currently am. This second episode was absolutely incredible, and it was due to what they did with the character Akane, as well as the Gridman mechanics. First things first, Akane. When I saw her bump into her teacher and she was squeezing that juice box to the point that it looked like blood on the floor, at first I thought someone was bleeding. I was thinking to myself, okay, clearly she's going to tie into the Gridman story, maybe she knows something that our main character Yuta doesn't know, but I wasn't expecting the reveal that she was behind the horror that was going on, and she had her own version of Gridman lurking in the background as she crafted her sculptures of these kaiju, to which then he would create them into reality, and if they kill people that she wants to have killed, they essentially get wiped from reality to the point that they are now dead years back, even though they just died that day or the prior day. That is something I was not expecting. Granted, the hints were there, but my mind was set on she would be a good character. She didn't strike me as the overly positive to the point that you knew she was an evil character. Like, what I like with this show a lot is how the characters feel a lot more natural than what most anime would go to. I mean, we have giant monsters walking the streets. You would expect very overly designed anime characters, the psychotic laugh, the overly I'm going to take over the world. Instead, we got this psychotic bitch of a character who just likes killing and probably doesn't think she's doing anything wrong. That makes for a much more intriguing antagonist because she's just psycho, she's just insane, but she's not overly blowing it. I'm just this big bad evil, you gotta take me out. It's so nice to have someone who seems like an everyday normal high school student who's actually a mass murderer, or at least attempting to be one. That's absolutely incredible. Then you have the new Gridman mechanics, which I thought it would just be Yuta fighting. Obviously, from the promotional, like, I saw that he had other upgrades, but I thought those upgrades would just be part of, like, his leveling up process. I wasn't expecting to have Mr. Samurai pop in and become the sword that Gridman would use to take out this week's monster. That was an interesting twist and turn. I'm really glad it took, because now we know how the other side characters, who I thought would be more moral support, maybe doing some work on the sidelines, they're probably going to get some sort of an ability that's going to attach to Gridman to help him in battle, and that's pretty cool. I like that mechanic. It reminds me a lot of Power Rangers, especially with the whole bracelet that Yuta is now wearing. Like, that's definitely like, oh, there's his morpher. I love it. It's such Power Rangers, and I love that so much. But the actual character dynamics, like I mentioned, I feel like the cast is very human. Like, the idea that you now have these things that were only fiction before, these giant kaiju beasts. Naturally, if something like this happened in reality, us with our anime or video game or whatever knowledge, we would use that nerdy knowledge and try to apply it to the now real entity. So the fact that the character, I think his name's Sho, something to that nature, maybe it's Shu, I'm forgetting, but the fact that he's trying to use like, oh, this is like the Ultra series, so aliens have to be next, like, that is such a believable remark coming from someone who's obviously a fan of things like this. Like, that's what at least I would do in this situation. Like, if I'm seeing these giant creatures that I used to see, like I would read in books or I'd see in just anime, like, I would try to just rationally use, like, okay, if this is now real, maybe I gotta use my anime knowledge to apply it, and then obviously cracking jokes like that. It's naturally what I think people would do in this situation, and the idea of the banter between these three characters, it really feels like people talking, not trying to be anime characters, which I like. And I think it's clear that she probably had a deeper connection to Yuta than what she's implying. I don't know if it was full romantic. The opening does show them holding hands, or at least that's who I think was holding hands, Yuta and her. So maybe there was maybe a romance or something deeper than just what they are currently now, and that's why she feels a little distance towards them. I think there's definitely something going on that she's not letting on, and that's why she seems so hesitant to be in this group, because maybe this group isn't as close as she once was to Yuta. Maybe that's what's going on, but I think Yuta and his amnesia will play an interesting factor, especially since now we have this restoration that it appears that Gridman, you know, restored the school, all these things, but people are killed by these monsters. It appears like they are essentially wiped from this timeline to the point that their death happened years back, which I think is really interesting. They set the stage for these future episodes to be really interesting, because now we understand the core cast dynamic. We get introduced to the samurai guy, who obviously ties into Gridman. His arc will probably be interesting with how he ties into Gridman, how he knows him, if he's a creation like him, if he comes from another world, or he comes from the computer. That's interesting. The three central characters that we're going to be following, they all have interesting personalities. Of course, Yuta is the most basic because he has amnesia. He probably really doesn't even understand how he's supposed to act for his personality, but he'll obviously open up as the series goes on. The characters are joking around. There's obviously these moments of just like heartbreak for them. And then you have the new Gridman mechanics, which I think are really interesting, especially as the characters go on. Gridman's probably going to choose them, or maybe they have to awaken or something like that to fight with Yuta alongside him, which will be really interesting. And of course, you got Akane, who is the most psychotic, evil character I've seen in a while that doesn't try to feel like she's overblowing the psychotic nature, but just being insane, which I quite like. If she was more overly like, in your face, I'm evil, I wouldn't like her character that much. I'd be like, it's an anime, I expect that. But the fact that she was just laid back, chilling, and just being so psychotic, that made her such a more interesting character, because I'm interested in seeing why she was chosen to have this ability, how she is going to translate, because right now she appears like an everyday girl, but I assume she will get closer to Yuta to figure out what Gridman is and how she can sabotage him. That's going to be interesting. I think right now the cast dynamic is really solid. The story hook is a little basic, you know, you got the good guy, you got the bad girl, and they're trying to basically to compete for the world's attention right now, but the cast dynamic is where the story is really going to shine, because each of these characters are tying into the main mechanics in a pretty elegant way that I'm really excited for more. Episode 1 left me having fun. I was like, this is going to be a fun watch every week. Episode 2, the characters now have sold me, and I can't wait to see how they're going to develop on top of that fun factor. Whatever you thought of episode 2, though, let me know down in that comment section below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think of our new antagonist, Akane? And be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content from me in the future. But until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.